Hello, my crafty friends. It's Michelle, the Southern Shell, and welcome to January 1st, 2026. And this is the first of the month challenge hosted by Brenda with Rustic and Lace DIY and Gwen with At Home with Gigi. Their channels will be linked in my description box below, along with the playlist of all the other creators that have joined this collaboration. Let's jump right on in to project number 1. I have 3 projects for you today, and they are fun, fast, and inexpensive. For this project, I have some maple syrup jars, and I painted them with Folk Art Adirondack by Plaid, and that's a chalk paint. And I have these beautiful napkins that I am going to use on these bottles. So once that chalk paint was dry, I came in with some matte Mod Podge, and I only covered the area that I wanted the image of the napkin to stick onto. I did that to all sides of the bottle, the fronts and the backs. And then I was able to come in and I separated the napkin. This is a 3-ply napkin. So it did take me a couple little pieces to pull apart. And I'm sorry it feels like it's a little choppy for some reason. My camera recorded in slow motion. And so I'm trying to get this sped up where we can watch it properly. Once that Mod Podge had dried on our bottles, I came in with the full corner of my napkin. I laid it where the image was right in the center where I had placed that Mod Podge, and I used a piece of parchment paper and I ironed that image on down to that bottle. Now, this isn't a big deal using my iron on here. It is a thick glass bottle. It is not going to break if I apply the heat to it, and I'm not pressing hard on it. Once I get that done, I'm able just to pull that off, and that image is. I do the same thing with all each side of my bottle, the cabin being on one bottle and the boat being on the other. I came in and I just spritzed some water after those were all ironed on there. I spritzed some water on my little envelope to the side, and I'm just going to come in and use a paintbrush and that water to draw a line to create a very soft torn edge. You will see I just work my way all the way around, pulling that napkin away from where it was attached by the Mod Podge and the iron, and it gives a wonderful edge to this front of the bottle. Once that's all done, you can pull it right on off and look at that image on that white background. I'm just going to come in with some more Mod Podge, and I am going to lay those edges down and blend it nicely into the edge of the white bottle. I'm going to do the same on both sides and then on both bottles. When I come back in, I'm using Mod Podge all around the edge to help seal that in. I'm going to seal in over the top, and then I'm going to come in with some snow and frost effects. While the Mod Podge is still wet, I'm coming in with some regular table salt to dust around where that Mod Podge is wet to create a snowy look. This will continue all the way around, up and over the top, even across the seat of where the snow is on that boat. And I'm going to just come in and sprinkle that table salt, and then I will tilt it up and dust it off and let these dry. I have this Dollar Tree gem ribbon here, and I'm going to go ahead and measure this to go around the spout of my bottle. I'm measuring around a little further down, but I do come back in and I just do around the top of the bottle where the cap would actually screw on. I'm taking that and I cut it down to size for the diameter, and then I'm going to cut it in half for the width for this particular bottle. Now what I'm doing is I'm going to start with some hot glue, and then I'm going to use Beacon's 3-in-1 and hot glue to get these gems to stay around the mouth of the bottle here. The 3-in-1 is going to hold this permanently and it will be a great grip. So I'm just going to go and I'll go with do a couple with the Beacon's 3-in-1 and then put a hot glue in between. then do a couple more with the beacons 3-in-1 and the hot glue in between. And I'm going to do this all the way around the top edge of this bottle. Once the top one is on there, I'm going to come in and do the same thing to the bottom piece to go around. One of them will be right around the top of the mouth of the bottle, and the other will go just under the rim of the mouth of the bottle on this particular one. And it fits just right going all the way around. Now I just came back in with a soft paintbrush and I dusted off, brushed off all that loose salt that was on that bottle. And then I'm just going to go ahead and spray this down so that I will have it all sealed and ready to go. And let's move on to project number 2. Project number 2 is going to go through some of the similar things that we've just done with project number 1, but I'm using some old jars. Some are olive jars and some are possibly pickle jars, but there are a few different sizes, and I think this turned out adorable. Let's jump in. All right, so here are the 3 different size jars that I have. I have cleaned them and sprayed them down and made sure they were all nice and clean. I have these images off of creativefabrica.com. I have my matte Mod Podge, and I resized the images to fit on my bottles. So what I'm doing first is I'm going to do one with the image on the inside of my glass jar. I wanted this to be on the inside so that I could have a candle in there and it would just be illuminating the inside of the jar. So when you do that, you want to make sure that when you're putting your image down, you're putting the bright, crisp image on the facing down onto your jar. Not facing up, but facing down so that the matte muted edge is on the outside. Once you get that on there, come back in with your Mod Podge and seal the edges. Make sure it's all down nicely. There's no bubbles, lumps, or bumps. And I just came in and I did the whole backside up and over and around where that image was. I'm going to do this with all of my jars and all of my little Christmas village scenes here from Creative Fabrica. So I'm going to go ahead and just go over the area that this is going to fit on so that I don't cover my whole jar in this Mod Podge. I'm going to start it out and I'm going to spritz my paper with a little water, and then I can lay this down and guide this over where I've got the Mod Podge on my jar and the paper on there. You see me just laying it down in the center and wrapping it around to the back side to create the whole scenery all the way around my jar. I do the same thing on the third jar, which is a taller, wider jar than all of the others. And so I used the biggest image on here and it almost took up the whole jar space, but I think it turned out beautiful. So all I'm going to do is measure around, go ahead and spritz my paper, get my Mod Podge on there, and get this attached to my jar. So this was the larger jar and it didn't quite fit, that image did not quite fit all the way around. So I took another piece that I had printed out and cut off a piece of a tree, painted the back side of it white because it was actually printed out on my mulberry paper. And once I got that painted white, I was able to use the Mod Podge and lay this down in that empty space. And with this one, I am going to take my time because it is a much lighter paper, so it's more fragile. And I'm just laying those trees on top of each other for a layered effect, and it turned out just fine. Once I had those all on there, I came back in with my plaid Adirondack chalk paint by Plaid, and I'm covering the whole back side of the image that I actually placed face down on the outside of my jar so that the image would be on the inside, and putting a coat of white paint on the back of that will make this image be much sharper in the long run. So I'm going to go ahead and cover the back of this, and then I will go ahead and cover the bottom of all the jars as well. Once that was dry and the frosted look was added on there with the salt as well, I came back in with some of the green and gold of this ribbon here. It's, well, the bling ribbon from Dollar Tree. And what I did is I just layered in some of my 3-in-1 and then came back in with my hot glue on some of those. And we're just going to lay that right around the rim of our jars. I did that with all 3 of our jars, and wait till you see how these turned out. Guys, thank you so much for joining me today. This is a friendly reminder that this is our Welcome Winter First of the Month collaboration with Brenda and Gwen from Rustic and Lace DIY and At Home with Gigi. Now, project number 3. Oh my gosh, this one I think is my favorite. I love the way the bottles and the jars turned out, but this is stinking cute. Okay, I have this adorable tray here. This is a wall hanging that I got at Michael's some time ago. I'm talking 2016, guys, at Michael's. I have these adorable prints from Creative Fabrica that I sized and printed out to go in each one of these little cubbies in this little tray. This is one that hangs on the wall, but it is not, the little shelf thing is not thick at all. You can add some little tiny details in there, but I thought that these beautiful little images would be perfect. So once that Mod Podge that I put on the inside of those little boxes was dry, I came in and I found which images I had sized for each square. I came in with my iron here, my little Cricut mini press, and my images with some parchment paper. And I ironed that right on down into that box. I have 4 of the corner pieces which are perfect, and then 4 of the smaller pieces to go across the center. And I got those all ironed down and pressed on so quick and easy. It was just perfect. Once I had all 4 corners done, I wanted to make sure that those were all even in the center of those little boxes. I went ahead and did the center ones. Now, right now my frame is upside down, but you can see I've got my bead, the same kind I used on the first bottles, the syrup bottles that I used mostly my Beacons 3-in-1. I used hot glue on the ends and hot glue in the center too, and then laid that down right across the top. And then I laid one down right across the bottom. Now the top and bottom of this ribbon, one is a little darker than the other. So I did the darker part on the bottom and the lighter part on the top. And then when I came in to split those last pieces, I did the same thing with the darker on the bottom and the lighter on the top. Once again, that Beacon's 3-in-1 right across the bottom, hot glue in the center and both ends, and then lay it right on down onto that board and stick it on in there and do the same with the other pieces all the way around the board. And here you have it. Oh my goodness, look at how adorable these turned out. Those syrup bottles, oh my goodness, I love them. I have another syrup bottle and one in the fridge, so I've got a couple more I'll be able to use later. But those images in that sweet little tray, oh, that little like shadow box, adorable. And then of course our little tea light holders. You can use real tea lights in here. I put everything on the outside. Look at that. You can see that image on the other side. I think it's just adorable. Oh, guys, if you like this video, please give me a thumbs up. If you've not subscribed, I hope you will consider doing so now by hitting that subscribe button. I am so glad you spent time today with me. I am so grateful. Guys, your time is precious. I know it. And as always, stay safe, God bless, and bye for now.